So welcome to the chapter programming. The induction ceremony is over. Now what? And so I presented this at the Cincinnati National Leadership Conference this past October. And it was just a good discussion with advisors to talk about the programming that can happen or that does happen on campus. You know, we certainly encourage it. There's a continuum of how involved chapters are and how involved the students are and the student leaders. Some years they're going to be gung-ho and doing all sorts of things, and then other years there might be a little lull. Key role for the advisors to sort of try and help and sustain that, and really take your cue from the students as well. It's not the role of the advisor to do all the chapter programming. It really should be the students. So a lot of times when I was advisor, I really struggled with the students because I didn't really know a whole lot about Alpha Lambda Delta at first, and this was about 14 years ago or so. So the students didn't really know what they were supposed to do. Like, okay, now we're inducted, the ceremony was lovely, it was a beautiful thing, and parents came, and then they weren't really quite sure what to do with themselves. So that can happen. And then the other piece of that is that sometimes they want to do some things that everybody else is already doing, and they want to try and maybe be unique or somehow stand out and have a niche or something that ALD is known for that maybe no other chapter or no other student organization is doing on campus. So we'll brainstorm some ideas about that. I forgot to mention that it's just sort of a Zoom kind of thing. If you're not familiar with the Zoom, you can go ahead and mute yourself if you're not speaking, just to sort of cut down, similar to what Tanya's doing for a noisy office of AC. Wow, we've got the heat on in our office. not air conditioning, we have heat. So if you want to mute, and then if you do chime in and say anything, you know, participate too, but then unmute yourself, and it just sort of helps cut down on ambient noise. Okay. So Trish, I'll use you as my cue. Can everybody see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, so I'm just going to assume everybody else can see it. So one of the things that I'll talk about first is just what are some of the programs and activities that we know a lot of our chapters participate in already. These are some of the mainstay activities. Some of them, when I first start to talk about some of these, they're not going to really be programs and activities. They're more like promotional activities for Alpha Lambda Delta, but they're important, and I'm going to include them even though it's not like a get-together event or a service project. These first few activities are really about promoting ALD's brand on campus and letting students know that Alpha Lambda Delta exists. So while it's not a traditional campus program, it is still important, and it also has a lot of benefits to pulling a group together, building community, helping them meet each other. It's something to do. It's something that brings the group together and helps educate the campus about ALD. So I'll start with those, and then we'll talk more about specific programming throughout the year. So these are really programs related to the beginning of each academic school year. So let's just start with some orientation. Most college campuses have orientation activities. Any way that Alpha Lambda Delta could play any role in summer orientation is great. They should be encouraged to apply for orientation leader positions. Summer orientation programs tend to have one of two, usually offered in one of two ways. Small intermittent programs throughout the summer for a day or two in June and July, or they don't do any summer orientation. They just bring all the new students together in the fall 3 or 4 days before the first day of classes. So either model, ALD should be visible. And whatever ways you can encourage the students in the chapters to be visible at any summer orientation, because obviously, for the most part, while there might be transfers and upper division students, for the most part, orientation is geared towards first-year students. And so it's a great opportunity to have ALD exposed to first-year students. And one of the things about ALD programming that I really would like to encourage all chapters to participate in is to have a focus for the chapter on academic success for first-year students. That's what we're about. That's our mission. That's what got students invited and joining to begin with. And so the idea is that it's a cycle of having then inducted students that next year be role models and outreach to the next class of incoming freshmen to encourage them to study hard, to aspire to be invited to join Alpha Lambda Delta in their next spring semester. So again, some orientation is great. One of the other key things about orientation is to get something, if you can, put in a packet. You can see, this is an example. I don't know what school this is. I'm not sure. But a lot of orientation programs around the country give little packets of information to students, a bag or a tote bag or something. So if there can be an ALD insert in that bag, that's a really good use of our study guide. We have more folks joining us. Welcome if you're joining. Hello, hello. Let me bring you to our website. Let's see. I had it all set up. Okay. So do you see, Trish, again, I'm going to ask you, do you see our website?
Sure do.
Okay, great. So this is a study guide that we offer free of charge, and if we'll send you copies, and if it can be put in the packets for summer orientation or distributed in some way for summer orientation, it's a great little tool. Again, it's generic. It's not telling the student that they're being invited to join. It's saying, here's some tips on how to be successful your first year. And if you do get a 3.5 or higher, you'll be invited to join us, and here's who we are. So that's the purpose of that piece. I just realized it didn't need to end share, so there we go. So back to the PowerPoint. Do you see a slide for with students carrying buckets?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay, so the next area that students could really get together in the chapter and start the year off right and great with programming is to help with move-in day. So now orientation has happened. You've gotten the word out at orientation. If there's any way, oftentimes most campuses let student groups help with move-in. It's often a very big Greek letter, social Greek letter organization activity where a lot of Greeks like to help with move-in, and they wear their letters, and Alpha Lambda Delta could be part of that. We're not a traditional sorority or fraternity in the social sense, but we're a Greek lettered organization. If there's any opportunity that ALD students could help them move in, wear the letters, again, talk about ALD, it could be another nice activity to get students together, get members together, and do something fun. And then the last thing that has to do, before I talk about sort of more traditional chapter programming, the last sort of promotional thing about ALD is just tabling in general is a really great activity and encouraged. So a lot of colleges across the country have club fairs, student activity fair, the club fair, whatever they call it. Your student activities offices are hosting opportunities usually at the beginning of each year for students to learn about all the recognized student organizations on campus. Alpha Lambda Delta should be present and participating at the fair. So it's another good use for the study guide that I mentioned earlier. Again, these are going to be students who are wandering around looking at all the clubs on campus. they're not invited yet, they're not eligible yet, they haven't finished their first semester yet. But again, they can be inspired and motivated, and wow, if I do really well, I can be invited. And the last thing I'll say about tabling on campus is that we really encourage you to not only use that first and larger club fair that the Student Activities Office offers, but most campuses, particularly in your student unions, allow tabling year-round. And so this could be something you do maybe at the end of the semester when it's final exams, and again, students can be motivated and learn about ALD, and it's fun to sit at the table, have giveaways, and encourage students to do well, you know, power through their finals and do well enough to get the invitation to join. So tabling is not just for the club fair that the Student Activities Office offers. This is an example of one of our chapters at Northern Kentucky University. They purchased a tablecloth. They have this nice display board that, you know, you work hard on once and then you have it year after year. They have a mascot of some, what is that? Is that a bear? Brochures and study guides and sign-up sheets and all sorts of things. So that's just an example of what one of our chapters does to promote ALD. But again, we're talking about opportunities for your members to do something, to be together, to build team, to have an activity where they're getting to know each other. And these, even though they're promotional for ALD, they're still can be very beneficial in terms of programming. Okay, so let's talk about more traditional programming. I'm hoping, like I said in my email, that we can have some discussion about some things that you're doing or ideas you have, but I'll just throw a few out there and then I'll quit my slide share thing and we'll just talk. But a very popular campus program for ALD, Alpha Lambda Delta is not the only organization that does something like this, but it really could be a unique niche for ALD's chapter on your campus because it's academic focused. And so it's all about promoting academic excellence and helping students reduce their stress levels around final exams. You could also, if you have a traditional midterm time frame in your academic calendar, you could do that too. It's more traditionally done during finals of each semester. So the chapter could host study skill workshops. There's all sorts of things that our chapters do or can do regarding encouraging academic excellence and encouraging studying and helping students deal with stress. So bring in a massage therapist to give 5-minute neck massages. Like I said, study skills workshops and anything related to how to be successful during your final exams. Pet therapy is a really popular thing. Those cute doggies. Work with your local animal shelter, and this is becoming more and more popular, is to bring animals, typically dogs, but it could be other things. Peacocks, I don't know, but bring some pet therapy dogs to campus, and students love that. Again, this is during finals, they're all stressed out and it helps relieve stress. So look into some pet therapy options or bringing pets to campus. Another really cute, I think, and popular activity that a lot of chapters do, and a lot of student organizations might do this, but to get you could get creative, like you see on the slide, which is to hand out treats and maybe candy, or it could be healthy snacks. It doesn't have to be candy. It could be granola bars or apples or something. But and again, you'd want to maybe attach something to it to say, have Alpha Lambda Delta's brand on it in some way. But handing out little treats. I love the bubble wrap, this cute idea too. You can get creative and with the names of the candies, but that's a very popular activity. And then I'm showing this slide because what a lot of groups do, or I've heard, is they sort of catch people studying so that you get rewarded for. So the ALD chapter members have, you know, bags full of these little treats that you've prepared, and you just go around one day or a couple days during finals and catch people studying. And so that sort of becomes known as like, oh, you go to the library or any little nook and cranny of some academic building and just randomly go up to people and give them a treat. So that's it for the academic piece. I think the possibilities are endless. You could do a lot of things. And again, Alpha Lambda Delta is an academic honor society, so any chapter programming that really focuses on academics, study skills, bringing in experts from the campus to talk to members, host events that are open to all students. There's a lot of possibility there. So a segue from that chapters do a lot of is in just using the resources of your campus. You all are at campuses that have career centers, academic resource centers, the scholarship office, the student activities, leadership development office, that they're probably offering leadership skill development workshops year round that they're, you know, dying for people to come to, that maybe students aren't coming to, that Alpha Lambda Delta could help promote. The counseling center is another resource on your campus. Mental health issues are a growing concern on colleges and universities, particularly among high achieving students who might feel extra stress. So there are so many experts on your campus, your colleagues and your friends, and so they can be guest speakers at it. You do a speaker series throughout the semester. It could be every week, every month, twice a semester. Don't have to get too crazy, but have a regular speaker series where all the members can come together, like I said, once a month and hear a speaker. The scholarship, I don't know if I just said scholarship office, but that is a very popular one as students. These are high achieving students involved in leadership. They're very eligible for scholarships, not just Alpha Lambda Delta scholarships, but many, many scholarships across maybe your own campus and the United States and probably globally as well. So bring in those speakers. It's very little work because you're just asking a friend to come for an hour and speak. And so these are some of the offices that I mentioned, and I'm sure there's many more. So there were two things, two ideas that I presented. Again, if you're just joining, I presented this workshop at the National Leadership Conference in Cincinnati, and again, we'll brainstorm and talk as a group together, but I wanted to share two ideas that maybe could be unique, that I think are, again, in line with Alpha Lambda Delta's mission, and I don't see a whole lot of other student organizations around the country doing these types of programs, and they could be unique to ALD and to your chapter. So I'm going to present two of them kind of fairly briefly, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So my two ideas are faculty appreciation. This is a program that I actually did at several institutions I used to work at before I came to ALD. And it's so simple and so meaningful that it was just one of my favorite programs that I've ever done, and I've spent 30 years on a college campus doing a lot of programming. So essentially what it is honoring faculty or recognizing faculty who are important in the lives of your members, of Alpha Lambda Delta members. And so when I did the program, it was for the RA staff, the residence hall staff, but so it could be any group, and so I'm suggesting it be for Alpha Lambda Delta. And essentially the idea is once a year, you invite all the members to nominate a faculty member that's had an impact on their lives, that they've liked, they've learned a lot from, and again, had a positive impact on their academic experience. And I use the word nominate a little loosely, that it's not really, this is not an award ceremony where there's a committee that has to choose who gets to win it. Any faculty member who a student has put forward with a few sentences as to why is going to get an award, is going to sort of be recognized at this event. And essentially what I did when I did this was gathered all the names from students and then just invited them all these faculty members, to a reception. It was usually in April. That's induction season for ALD, so it could be in the fall. It doesn't, whatever time frame works for you. But I would just send an email to these faculty on campus to say, you've been, you know, students have named you as someone who's had an impact on their academic experience. You're invited to this reception at such and such day and time, 4 o'clock on Thursday. We'll have refreshments and we'll say a few words about how you've impacted and the student. We're inviting the students who nominated faculty. And we invited the deans and their chairs and the provost. And I'm telling you, this was like a really amazing event every year. The faculty are just blown away because they don't get a lot of positive reinforcement sometimes. So they loved it. And so if that's of interest to you and your chapter as a program that the ALD chapter could host and facilitate every year, I've got lots of material I can share, including all the forms I used. It really was not a lot of work, I will say, on my part. And I'm the one, you know, I was the advisor, similar to you at my previous university. So this is a sample of the form I used. And then an email went out to them saying you're cordially invited to this reception. We asked student leaders to tell us about faculty that they want to recognize. You're one of them, come on over. We just made our own little certificate. I mean, it just means so much, but it's funny because people love certificates. It's just a piece of paper we created. And then I put something, every year I would always put something in the daily email that went out to faculty and staff. A lot of your campuses probably have this daily email or some sort of newsletter that goes out regularly to staff and faculty, so we made sure to put it in there and list everybody's name. And then just an example of one of the receptions, took a few pictures, and they just loved it. So this is one of the last receptions I did before I left Buffalo State. Okay, that's one idea, and I'm going to quickly address the other one, and then we'll talk. These are students who, I don't know what they're doing, but they hopefully look like they're sleeping or napping. And this is going to maybe seem a little strange, but I think that Alpha Lambda Delta could be programming around sleep issues. So it has been studied and reported that sleep is one of the top issues students are dealing with, and students who are able to have healthy sleep are shown to do much better academically. And so it's a major problem. I mean, it's related to all the stress and maybe the mental health issues, but certainly the stress. Students are not getting enough sleep. There's lots of things that a chapter could program around sleep issues. And there could be workshops, personal stories from students about how it's affected them. Here's a study and I have these resources. If this is a topic that really rings true for you and something you want to pursue, I do have a lot of resources. I won't get into them all right now, but I've got some studies that talk about the impact on college student success. And it's an underappreciated key to student success. Again, that's what Alpha Lambda Delta is all about. So what can we be doing, and what can our chapters be doing to promote healthy sleep? It could just be a passive program, like a brochure or flyer that the group puts together and hands out, little tip sheets on how students can have healthier sleep. This was my cue to talk about, you know, there's every campus I know about has really good nap spots, and your campus probably has really good nap spots, and that might be a fun program that the chapter engages in at some point, that you survey all the student members at some meeting and find out what are all the nap spots. There's bound to be some, and create a list of all the places where you can go catch some Z's. This is an idea, is like earplugs and eye patches things. They're really cheap. They could be something you give away. I think one of the #1 issues, I have 2 kids that have recently graduated college, and the one most recent said to me that it's one of the #1 issues for her in getting a good night's sleep and being alert for her academic coursework was the noise in her residence hall, particularly at night with a roommate who has very different hours and is coming in at 3 and 4 in the morning, and she's trying to sleep and getting woken up by the light or the noise. And so I'm a big fan of earplugs and eye patches. So that could be a fun, cheap thing to give away to promote healthy sleep. Look at that, 100 pieces for only 50 bucks. Another study about sleep health that I can share if anybody has any interest in it. And then there are some colleges around the country that are doing some very interesting and unique things around sleep. Okay, so who's still with us? Hey, everybody. So no one else has their cameras, just being you, Trish.
I know it's kind of awkward.
Okay, so if everybody can unmute themselves or turn your phones back on, or I'm not really sure if you're on the phone, if you want to chime in. So at this point, I'm just, I guess, curious, did anything come to mind as you were hearing some of the ideas? Do you do some of these things already? And anything new that your chapter does on your campus as a program that might be interesting to others? Anybody? Dan, you're new, so, and some of you actually are new advisors, so you're maybe here to learn.
If I could jump in for a second. Yeah. So if you don't know me, I'm Trish. I'm the Director of Communication in the National Office. And one of the things that I do is read all of the annual reports. So if you need specific program ideas or want to know kind of what other schools might be doing that are similar size to you, or, you know, we want to do a program on the environment, do you have ideas, reach out to me and I can help you out. But one thing that's good to do is to partner with offices. So like Eileen mentioned, you know, partnering with the counseling center and, you know, for different programs, but also just volunteering sometimes is good, just to get Alpha Lambda Delta's name out there, so that when you have your invitation season, it's not the first time that students are seeing Alpha Lambda Delta. So maybe you're volunteering at commencement, maybe you're volunteering you know, at some of the theatrical shows or whatnot, but just any way that you can find to get your name or Alpha Lambda Delta's name out there, it will benefit you when recruitment time comes around.
Yep, great. And then I actually had a window open on that I was going to share, which I'll do real quick, and then I'm going to answer, Tammy, I'm going to answer your question in a second. But I did want to just mention real quick the Tricia alluded to this service in a way. So every year we do promote a topic, sort of a global topic that could be, then you could program anything you wanted for it. So this year it is the environment. Last year it was animals. Another great source of chapter programming is to, you know, go with the service piece. A lot of other organizations on your campus are doing service activities. In fact, some of your organizations are strictly service organizations. That's all they do. And a lot of fraternities and sororities are all engaged in service, and that's okay. What can ALD find something that's unique that no one else is doing? It doesn't have to be related to the environment, but we're just encouraging that so that we can have some sort of theme. And so service is always encouraged in whatever form that takes.
Yeah, and the hope with the National Service Project is that you do you know, an environment themed project, and then you report back to us and send us pictures and you know, a couple sentences of a write-up, and then we include it in the Flame magazine and we highlight it at our conference.
Right, right. And yeah, so Trish mentioned the annual reports, and some of the that really informed the early part of my PowerPoint, because I could see from the annual reports that most of you are doing things like orientation and tabling and promoting ALD in that way, and a lot of service activities. And so yes, there is an annual report that we do require all chapter advisors to complete. You'll get an email about it. It's once a year, and it's due in May 10th.
We usually send the email around the middle of April with the link to the form and the information.
It'll be an online form. It's this isn't what I won't get into too many details, but it is an important report to fill out, and we do require it because it involves you reporting your beginning and ending treasury balances, and that's how we report to the IRS. And if you don't submit it, then you're supposed to report or file with the IRS, and nobody wants to do that. We do it for you.
It's also where you can request any publication materials that we have through the national office. So study guides for orientation, like Eileen had mentioned, or brochures for tabling. Those are all free that we offer, and you indicate the number that you need on your annual report, and we'll send it to you.
So what else? Any thoughts or questions? Was this helpful? I think I hear Daniel.
Yeah, this is very helpful, and in fact, I think one nice thing I have here at the regional center is that there really aren't other organizations on campus doing anything yet. So this would be a good opportunity for our students, and I really like the fact that students can join so early. When I was in college, many of the honor societies you couldn't join till your junior or senior year, at least in your major. So this is good.
Yeah, certainly most national honor societies are discipline based and academic major related, and one does not get invited or is eligible for them until usually junior year. So we're unique in that regard. We're interdisciplinary and first year students. And Daniel, you bring up a great point, and like I said early on, for those who are interested, we have more and more chapters and at universities that have regional or branch campuses. So this could be a great topic in general for how to engage that branch campus, because they're not always, they're usually obviously smaller to some degree. Connecticut's another one that has just emerged. And our Connecticut chapter is very, very large, but their branch campus is small but growing, and they could be doing programming like this on the other campus.
Another thing to keep in mind when you are doing your programming, obviously you're probably going to want to put Alpha Lambda Delta's name or logo on things. We do have a media kit to help you. I'm going to share the screen, Eileen, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, I actually sorry.
Oh, do you have it up?
I had it booked, so I have all these. So
Perfect.
I had media guide, study guide, let's see, that was service, and then I was going to point out that page. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, so we have our logos, our colors. If you're on social media, be sure to tag us because we like to share the programs that you're doing with our groups. So, it's all there. And if you have any questions, like if you're doing t-shirts and you need, if your printer needs a higher quality logo or an EPS design, just let me know and I can send that to you.
Color press. Yeah. So this is chock full of stuff, nationalald.org/media kit. I mentioned the study guide. I mentioned the service project. And the last thing I was going to mention is we do have a handbook that we offer for advisors. Lots of topics about managing your membership and working with your registrar and initiations and financial matters, etc. How to work with students as they transition from student leaders, outgoing and incoming, chapter presidents, that sort of thing. But one of them is on programming, chapter activities. Mm-hmm. And so that might be another helpful resource in addition to this workshop and PowerPoint is just some other ideas, mentoring programs, retreats, service activities, some specific things like Habitat or Relay for Life is a popular one, food drives, fundraising that you give to raise money for charity, and that sort of thing. And I did want to just, since it's here, make a quick point about chapter programming and requiring attendance. I'll just mention this briefly, that a lot of chapters, to add an incentive for students to show up to the campus programs that the chapter plans, because a lot of times that's going to be a struggle, like any other student organization on every campus in this country. They struggle with students engaging and showing up. And so a lot of chapters use ALD, use an incentive within the chapter to attend programs by giving out points. 5 points for every guest speaker you come to, 3 points for every meeting, 6 points if you sit at a table during orientation, etc. And so for students who don't want to do that or didn't get enough points, you have to just be very careful about what the points are for and what the incentive is. And so bottom line is it can't be considered for membership. So once you join Alpha Lambda Delta, you're a member for life. So what chapters do is you'll get points, and if you get enough, if you get 52 points for the year, whatever, you get an honor cord for graduation, or you get a gift card for Starbucks, or some sort of prize or reward, but not membership. You can't tell them that they have to come to 6 programs a year in order to be a member because they're a member for life. So that's all. But that is a very effective way to get students engaged in chapter programming, is to have some sort of point system. I will say that it tends to be very successful for chapters. Students like, collecting stuff, and they, anyone likes a prize or a coupon or something that they get. An honor cord, it only costs $8 for the chapter. If you want to purchase honor cords for every senior, they're $10, but if you buy more than 10, they go down to 8. So they're pretty inexpensive, and then every student who attends 6 programs for the year gets a cord. That could be a way to really engage your group. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of resources. Again, if there's anybody that wants to chime in, I think everybody's muted. Trish, anything more we want to add at this point?
No, not at all.
Okay. Great. Okay, that's it for our chapter programming presentation. Thank you for being here. Please reach out to either me or Trish if you have questions, or and especially let me know if any of those ideas, like the faculty appreciation or the sleep promotion of healthy sleep. I have lots of resources on both of those. So check with your student leaders in particular to see if there's any interest there. Maybe they think the idea is not good. So who knows? But if you want to follow up with me, I'm happy to provide resources. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And keep an eye out on our website for future webinars at nationalald.org. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.